Hi, my amazing planner friends. It's Jess from My Magical Planner, and today we're going to be talking about ink swatch cards. I know there's a ton out there on the market. These were the easiest ones for me to get my hands on, and as my ink collection grows and grows, I found that having a good way to swatch my inks is vital for me picking out colors each month. So today we're going to be going over all the different ones that I have here. I think I have, depending on how you want to count it, 5 or 6, being that I do have 2 different ways with the color space cards. I have an art card as well as a swatch card that we'll be testing out. In this video, I'm going to be going over each different type of swatch card individually. We'll talk about what type of paper, if I know it, because a few of these I don't. But most of them I do. We'll go over the paper type, how many cards are included, the binding, what the cost was, and what cost per sheet it was. So you can see which of these is most cost efficient for you and make that judgment on your own. Once we've gone through all the different cards, I am going to take a few minutes and swatch all 6 colors that I've picked out to go on these cards and let them dry, and then we'll come back and we'll look at the results together and gauge which ones did a really good job and which ones were maybe a miss. So that all being said, let's dive into this. And I think let's go most expensive to cheapest. So the by far most expensive is the Ferris wheel press book. That being said, it is the biggest book. And it is beautiful. I mean, the cover is a really nice cardstock. You have gold foiling on it. You have this rivet closure where you can take it apart with a screwdriver if you want to do your swatching one page at a time and not worry about getting it on other cards and that kind of thing. It does have a more unique, I would say, mechanism with that rivet that you have to slide your cards this way. They are all stamped the same way. And this is the design on the card. So you get a nice ink bottle. It looks like one of their ink bottles. So whether or not you're going to want to use this with other inks is up to you. It is also stamped at the bottom with Ferris wheel press. I don't know if there would be any confusion there if you do use other inks, but that's something to consider. And of course, this is foiled on there as well. They do use 100-pound cardstock for their cards, which I'm not sure how that'll perform. We'll have to see, because cardstock is very different than a lot of other papers. It does feel rather smooth, but we'll have to wait and see how it compares to the others. Now, I did say it was the most expensive. It is $16. The size is 4.25 by 4.25, although I think it is advertised as a 6 by 6. I'm not sure where the discrepancy comes in that, but it does say that there are 40 pages in here, and at 40 pages for $16, that does make this 40 cents a page, which is more than double the next cheapest in line. So just kind of food for thought there. The next in line from expensive, I don't know how you want to say it, but is this little ink flip book. Super cute. Got it off of Jet Pens. Not crazy about the closure here. It is plastic. I could see that being an issue. It also is rather small, but that being said, I can replace this fairly easy with a metal one if I wanted to, or a big one. So if I wanted to get more than one of these and combine them, I could. It is $9.50 for 50 cards, which makes it 19 cents a card. It is much smaller than the Ferris wheel press one. I do not know the type of paper, but it does have an ink bottle stamped on here again. I think this one will be much easier to label and everything, and is really cute. The paper also is very smooth and almost feels like it might have a coating on it. So I'm interested to see how that performs. Next, we have the Color Space art cards. Now, these are a little bit different in that they have a design on them, but it's not like an ink bottle or anything of that nature. I don't know if you can really see it on here, but they have like quotes or different space themes on them, and you're meant to drop ink on them and make a design with them. So this is Color Space size B, and it does say down here they are 100 millimeters by 65 millimeters. Because this is made by an ink brand that is in Korea, Some of the measurements or different things are different than what we have on the US ones. It does say it has 200 G/M2 paper. They measure their paper differently in other countries, so I'm not exactly sure how that lines up with the Ferris wheel press one. We'll have to see, but it is nice to have that information there. As far as price, you get 45 sheets for $7, which makes this one 16 cents per sheet. Not too bad. Going a little cheaper. Coming in just below that is our Color Space swatch cards. Now you do get 50 in here, and it's pretty much the same paper and everything, only on these you actually have a bottle design and lines to write your information about the ink on it, which is kind of nice. I think it's going to make it really easy to put all your information on here. Now, as far as price on these, so you get 50 cards for $6, which makes them 12 cents a card. A lot cheaper than the art cards, but the art cards are a little fun. Now, tying that last swatch book is the Col-o-ring swatch book. Now, this is probably the one I see the most. I think it's the easiest to find. It very clearly says on here it's for ink testing. So it's the one that I see in most videos. It is also on the cheaper end, being that each card is only costing you 12 cents. It is a pack of 100 sheets in here. You do have cardstock, like really thick cardboard on both ends, which is really nice. You have all of your info here on the back. It is designed by the Well-Appointed Desk, and it is a US thing. So you do know that you're buying a US product if that's important to you. As far as the size, they are 2 inch by 4 inch. Is that 2 inches? I guess it is. And they are 100 pound, 160 GSM acid free. None of the other ones I think have specifically said that they're acid free, so that is also something to note. As far as price, I did pick this one up for $12, which made them, again, 12 cents per page, which is a really good amount. I did misspeak. The covers are actually rounded cornered chipboard, so really super sturdy. And I love that we have a metal ring on this one. Next in line are the Wearinguel ink swatch cards. You can get these in a bunch of different designs. I happen to get the ink drop. There's also like Cheshire Cat ones. There's pandas. There's a bunch of different ones. And this is kind of along the same lines as those art cards in that you have a shape on here. Let me see if I can pull one out so you can kind of see. You'll see it when I swatch. But all of this area is, the ink won't stick to it, so it just sticks inside there. And you also have a space to write with your ink down here at the bottom, all the information that you need. The paper that they use for these is the 200 GSM paper, so it is pretty comparable to a lot of these other ones. You get 50 sheets in the packet for $5, which means each sheet is 10 cents, which is pretty cheap. So there is that. And our last one is actually this one called Spare Cards. Now, I got these from Jet Pens. There is a leather book with a ring that you can get. It is quite a bit more expensive, but it is made by Life, if you've used that paper before for your fountain pens, which is kind of nice. These are 5x3 cards, so they are pretty large. They might actually compete with the Ferris wheel press for the largest, depending on how you want to count that. That being said, the Life cards I did get from Jet Pens. They cost me $6.75, which meant for a pack of 100, I was only paying about 7 cents a card, making them by far the cheapest option. So my next job is going to be to swatch all these out, and the inks I'm going to be using are Ferris Wheel Presses Lady Rose. I also have a Sailor dipped in ink here called Mellow Forest. We also have Colorverse's Mystic Mountain, which I think is going to be really fun on those art cards. I got a Private Reserve Infinity Burgundy and Robert Oster's Pink Squirrel, one of my absolute favorite inks, and Jack Herbon Emerald of Chivor 1670, which is a very popular ink. So with that all being said, I'm going to take a few moments here and swatch all of these, and then we'll be back once they dried to see what that looks like. All right, guys, I've finished swatching everything, and I'm ready to talk about the results and declare a winner. So the first thing we need to talk about are these two samples, because I only did 2 cards in them, even though they have very different reasons why. We're going to talk about this one first. Now, these were the life cards that I thought were going to be good for swatching, because I've gotten life paper for my fountain pens before. I've thought it was just fine. I don't know if these are different paper or if it's because of the swatching itself, but these were horrible, especially the Ferris wheel press Lady Rose. Like, I've never seen anything like that before, and it bled through really bad. I put less ink on when I did the burgundy, so it didn't bleed through as much, but they just looked really bad, and I felt like there was no reason to continue because this was out. Do not get this. Do not try it. I'm sure these are great for other things, like maybe a notepad or something, but not for fountain pen inks. Lesson learned there. The other one I only did 2 of were these, the Color Space Hubble Telescope ones. They're pretty much the same paper as these ones. And so there wasn't really a need to do both, I felt. And these are a lot of fun to do, and I think they will be a lot more fun with lots of other colors on them, not just one, to make images. So I wanted to reserve the rest of the ones that I had for that. That being said, I think they depict the inks really well. They are really fun to look at, and it's just really cool. Kind of wish we could get some with all the different names of the inks on here, and I think that would be really fun. But, you know, it is what it is. But I highly recommend these for fun, maybe not for swatching out your entire ink collection, though. All right, that leaves, what, 4 or 5? That leaves 5. So let's talk about them. Next, I'm going to talk about the Ferris wheel press, because I think out of the ones that are left here, this was my least favorite. And I think it did an okay job as far as swatching is concerned. I did try a few different ways of doing the swatching. This was my plastic bag method, where you put down a dab of ink and you flatten it out. I did that, I think, for the first 2. Sorry. This one I used a Q-tip to kind of color in the area. I didn't really like that, though. So the next one, I went back to blobbing, or whatever you want to call it. But I really don't like that with the stamp. It just doesn't feel right if it goes outside the lines, and it's a little harder to control when you're doing this type of swatching where it's going to go. And here's Mystic Mountain, where I went back to trying to use the Q-tip and kind of dabbed at the lower portion to get a darker color, and then colored in on the top. Really don't like it. Then we have Emerald of Chivor. So I put a drop on 3 pieces of paper all at the same time, and then kind of flattened them out. Unfortunately, this was the last one, and so I can't tell if you can see that, but there is a perfect circle there for the shimmer because of that. I did also dab a little on the side. So I would say, for a couple of reasons, this is not my favorite. One, I did try to take it apart to do the swatches and could not get this rivet out. It just kept turning, so I don't know if you actually can remove it to do the swatching. I couldn't, but that was mostly because I couldn't get the front. Like, I had no way of getting it to stop spinning. So maybe if you could do that, you could take it apart, but I don't really like that aspect. I also don't like the aspect of turning like this to see the different ink colors. I mean, it works okay, and I think I might swatch the rest of my Ferris wheel press inks in here, but not my favorite. I also didn't like the way that Like I thought I was going to love the way that this would look, but I don't. It feels messy in there, and using a Q-tip looks even worse to me. So maybe I need to perfect how I do it or something, or maybe there's another method out there. If you know, let me know. Um, but I really didn't feel like it did a good job as far as that goes. Plus, I didn't feel like there was a good spot for me to label it. So I just feel like there's all this empty space, but it's not like useful space. So maybe I'm supposed to write it in the bottle and then only have a little bit in the bottom. I don't know. But that was my opinion on this. That being said, I do think the swatching on this is one of the closest matches to the Archer and Olive paper as far as what you're going to see in the end, because I did test this on various different papers as well, trying to go, okay, well, if you're using this paper, which one would be most beneficial to you? And I do think that these make a good match. That being said, the ink flip was also a really good match for this, and these were easier to use. They were easier to write on, honestly, because there is some tooth to the Ferris wheel press paper. This is completely smooth. I did do a couple of different ways of distributing the ink on these. So at first I was doing swatches on here, and then I was like, well, where am I supposed to write the name of the ink? So I tried writing it up here and down here. Not sure I liked that. I did it with the Private Reserve and Infinity Burgundy as well. And I do like that you're getting the shading more on these than you did at the Ferris wheel press. Then I started using a Q-tip to go around the outside, and I think I like this the best. It gives a nice area for you to write the name of the ink. You go around the outside. I did dab a little bit more in this area, and it seems to do a pretty good job on this particular paper of showing the properties that way. I don't think it's good for all the different papers, but for this particular one, it worked really well. Plus, when I did put more on an area, I didn't have any issues of fibers or anything coming up, which was really nice. So honestly, this is going to be one of my top choices for how to swatch your inks. I think it's really cool. It is a little bit more expensive than some of the other options, but it looks nice and it's really fun. I also think this might be a good way to say you're going to do your ink swatches for the month and you want to have something like this. You could get one of these and then tape this down in your journal and write about the ink. And I think that might be really fun as well. Okay, next let's do, sorry, I'm moving things out of the way. We're going to do those ones last. But we're going to do the Colorverse and Wearinguel swatch cards kind of together because I think that they both have similar qualities. They both seem to reflect pretty well on these two notebooks. The Stalogy and however you pronounce this one. I can never pronounce it, but there is the name of the brand. It works really well with fountain pens, so I highly recommend both of these. But here is the Colorverse ones. So I think you do have a good representation of the color. You have a great place to write. Yes, Emerald Chivor does kind of get everywhere, but it is a really cool ink. Then here's a Sailor Dipton Mellow Forest. I like the way that you get the variation in ink color. Here's Private Reserves, Pink Squirrel. I love how much variation you see here. Mystic Mountain and Lady Rose. And then here are the Wearinguel ones, which the one thing I will say about these, so they have that coating on the outside, and I assumed that that coating would mean that nothing would stick there and I could just wipe it off if I got any there. That is not entirely the case. You have to be a little careful on that. So this is the Mellow Forest, and this is what I meant. Like, I got some of the red on the outside edge and I tried to wipe it off, but it just looked really messy. And here's an example of how when I was using the Q-tip to color these ones in, it kind of started to pill, for lack of another way to use it, or you get like some of the fibers of the paper coming up if you rub it too much. So that kind of brought this one down a little bit for me. I did learn a little as I went. You also have colors like this where you're not seeing a whole lot of variation, even though there is variation in the ink. So those are kind of tied, I would say, for, well, I'll put them all in order here in a minute. But I think my top pick will actually be the one that I see everybody using. Obviously, they use it for a reason. I didn't love writing on this paper. I will say that because it does have quite a bit of texture to it. I don't know if you can see it in there, but I think it is the closest to the Tomoe River paper as far as showing the ink qualities. So if you look here, you see quite a bit of variation for Robert Oster's Pink Squirrel. The dip tin looks amazing. You get much more color variation in there than I did in any of the other swatches. Same with Private Reserve's Infinity Burgundy. Mystic Mountain just looks amazing. Ferris Wheel Press's Lady Rose. You get that nice variation in there. And here is Emerald of Chivor. And I think this is the only one that really shows Emerald of Chivor to its full capacity. So just to give you an example of how these compare to the Tomoe River paper. So here's Pink Squirrel on the Tomoe River, and here is it on this paper. It is a little darker on here, but you do see some of the same variation in color. Then we have, let's see here, I marked everybody. This is the Private Reserve. And really, I feel like those swatches are pretty similar. Then here is Lady Rose. I do think I got a little bit more variation on the colors here, but you do see a little bit more of that down in this area. Then we have the Sailor Dipton. I also think these are pretty close. And the Emerald of Chivor. I think had I had a little bit more ink on top of each other, it might have looked more like this, but it shows all the same qualities. And as far as Mystic Mountain, which is in my other book here, you can really see how close those are. Final thoughts and ranking. So in last place is the Life paper one. Next, I think I would rank the Ferris Wheel Press, which is interesting considering it's the most expensive and that it comes from an ink company. But it just goes to show you that just because it's expensive doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. Then I think I would probably go with the cards from Colorverse and Wearinguel. I think I would kind of put them on par with each other. Not amazing, and that would put these cards in with that, so it's kind of a three-way tie. Then I think I would place these for ease of use and for the variety and the color and everything you get with these, plus a cute design. In first place, I'm going to put the Col-o-rings because it does show the ink's qualities to its full advantage. It's easy to use. You could even, and I think I probably will, put a line down here at the bottom so that when you are directly comparing the colors, you can really get them next to each other. It's fairly cheap and easily accessible. So just kind of my final thoughts on that. I would totally go with the Col-o-rings. You can get them just about every place. They come in this style. I think there are smaller ones that you can literally dip into the ink jars, or there are like index cards that you can put in a, what are those, like Filofax? Is that what they're called? Where you can just flip through all the different colors. So you have a lot of variety and options with that one as well. So anyhow, I hope that was helpful and that you enjoyed this. I am going to be doing some serious ink swatching in the next couple of weeks, and I hope you're along for the ride. Anyhow, that's all I have for today. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I'll see you real soon.